Ojai. Belize, the state in Central America. Till June 1973, British Honduras carried the name. Borders on Mexico and in the west on Guatemala in the north. East coast of Belize is washed by the Caribbean Sea. The only thing from the Central American states without an exit to the Pacific Ocean. The area of the country -km. Population -430,131 people. For 2021. The origin of the name Belize isn't finalized. According to one of versions, this word from language of the Maya of Belix meaning muddy water and applied to the name of the river Belize. According to other version, this name comes from the wrong pronunciation by conquistadors of a name of the pirate of the 18th century Peter Wallace. It is possible that the African slaves from Congo brought this name, as in Angola there is also Belizean. The she part of the territory of the country is occupied low, with places by the boggy plain with a set of lakes and lagoons. In the south stretch Mount Maya up to 1122 m high. It is the most sparsely populated part of Belize. A subsoil of the country is studied poorly, search of oil fields is conducted. Climate of Belize, tropical Pasitni. Average monthly temperature is about 26 C, minor change on seasons. The northeast trade wind brings many rainfall. The quantity them increases from the north to the south from 1300 to 3500 m a year. The rainy season lasts from May to July, and the droughty period from January to May. The hurricanes from the Caribbean Sea, which are followed by heavy rains and floods, bring to the country heavy disasters. About a half of the territory of the country cover tropical rainforests. Significant areas are engaged at the southwest and the north of Belize with listopadni broad-leaved and coniferous forests. Along the coast thickets of mangroves last. The woods are rich with valuable breeds of trees from which have the greatest economic value mahogany and a pine. The fauna of Belize is quite various. The broad-nosed monkeys, jaguars, battleships, large iguanas and other animals live. It is a lot of birds, including parrots and a hummingbird. Sea waters at coast are rich with fish, crustacea and turtles. In the past, almost all western part of the territory of present Belize was inhabited by the Maya Indians. During the late classical period of a civilization of the Maya, by the end of the I millennium AD. In the territory of the modern state of Belize about 400,000 people lived. The culture of the Maya reached blossoming by the 9th century. In the 10th century, almost all Indians of the Maya left this region and migrated on the peninsula Yucatan north. The south of modern Mexico. At the beginning of the 16th century, when here Europeans, Spaniards, for the first time landed, some tribes of the Maya still lived on coastal lowlands. Spaniards tried to get into the internal areas of Belize, however were forced to refuse these intentions, having met strong counteraction of the Maya. After gain by Spaniards of Central America, 1509-1524. A northern part of modern Belize was nominally included in structure of the Vice Kingdom of New Spain, Mexico, and southern in structure of General Captaincy Guatemala. However, Spaniards were practically not engaged in colonization of this deaf and almost deserted area, and British began to get there. The Indians of the Maya existing in this area before arrival of Europeans left the made habitable places and moved to mountainous areas on border of Guatemala and modern Belize. Until the end of the 17th century in mountains there was a Mayan settlement type uncontrollable by the Spanish colonial authorities. Final conquest of the Maya by Spaniards in the region took place in 1697. The first on the Belize coast began to create settlements the English and Scottish pirates who found here convenient base for the attacks mined the Spanish ships. From here pirates made attacks on the Spanish colonies in the southern Yucatan and devastated them, having stopped the Spanish control over the area. The first English colony on the riverbank Belize arose in 1638. In the middle of the 17th century also other English settlements were created. Later the British settlers were engaged in wood procurement of a campeshavy tree from which the substance used at production of dyes for fabrics and which was of great importance for the Shastopridadoni industry in Europe was extracted. The bulk of the English settlers was made by pirates and colonists about the islands of Jamaica bringing black slaves for works on logging and plantations. By 1800 Africans outnumbered settlers of the European origin 4 times. By this time the mahogany which pushed a sandalwood into the second place became the main article of export. Such situation remained till 1950 years. In the 18th century Spaniards repeatedly tried to force out by force of arms British from Belize, however colonists successfully beat off all attacks that allowed settlers to establish own laws and to create the government independent of England. During this period local regulatory authority, the People's Assembly, was controlled by few rich colonists who possessed the most part of the forests and lands. The first such meeting was created in 1738 as a result of elections. Throughout the 17th and 18th centuries Britain abstained from official declaration of the sovereignty over this area, being afraid of friction with Spain. In 1784 the British government for the first time appointed to Belize the official representative, the superintendent. Between Spain and Britain in 1786 the convention according to which the territory of modern Belize officially was under the Spanish sovereignty was signed. At the same time the English settlers had the right to lodge in the territory of Belize, to be engaged there in logging, but had no right to build strengthenings, to contain armed forces or to create any form of self-government. According to this agreement Britain liquidated the colony Mosquito Bay on the bank of Nicaragua. About 2,000 settlers and their slaves moved to Belize from there in 1787. Despite the agreement, in colony large plantations were created, and the electoral magistrate continued to exist. Large planters didn't wish to submit to the British superintendent, and the colony continued to remain semi-independent. In 1798 Spaniards tried to recapture Belize and directed the fleet from 2,000 soldiers under the leadership of the Governor-General of Yucatan there. As a result of the fight lasting 2.5 hours, Spaniards got beaten. At the beginning of the 19th century, Great Britain tried to establish stricter administrative control over settlements in Belize, demanding, in particular, under the threat of suspension of activity of People's Assembly, to observe instructions of the British government on slavery cancellation. Officially, slavery was cancelled in 1838. Since 1840, British began to call this territory British Honduras. In 1862, Britain officially announced British Honduras the colony, and in the head of administration instead of the superintendent the vice-governor was put. At the beginning of the 19th century, the population of British Honduras consisted generally of the Creoles of Anglo-Black origin and a Garifan Africano-Indian origin, moved by British from islands of the Caribbean Sea and also of British. Then on the territory of Belize, Spanish Indian Métaises and the Maya Indians from Mexico and Guatemala began to move. A large number of Indians of the Maya got to Belize as refugees as a result of the War of Castes which happened on Yucatan in 1847-1852. Later the British began to deliver to Belize as cheap labor of Indians, Chinese and other natives of Asia. During the economic crisis of the 1930 years, the economy of colony appeared on a crash threshold as a result of sharp falling in Great Britain of demand for timber. Consequences of a destructive hurricane of 1931 were added to the disasters caused by Massachusetts unemployment. The economic situation of colony improved during World War II, however after war the economy of colony appeared in a condition of stagnation again. In 1959 to Belize several thousands of Mennonites, Germans and Dutches from Canada moved. In 1964 the colony received internal self-government, in 1973 is renamed into Belize. Granting of independence to Belize by Great Britain long time was postponed because in 1966 Guatemala, which president then was Julio Cesar Mendez of Montenegro, proclaimed Belize the East Department and demanded his return from Britain. On September 21, 1981 Belize gained independence. At the same time there was a British armed contingent. 1.5 thousand people. Until in 1992 Guatemala announced the refusal of the claims to Belize. Belize, the member of the Union since 1981, the member of the Organization of American States since 1991, is included into the Caribbean Community and into the International Organization of the Countries, the Act. Till 1970 the city of Belize, city located in the mouth of the river Belize on the bank of the Caribbean Sea, was the capital. This largest city of the country repeatedly cruelly suffered from the hurricanes which were followed by the strongest floods. After the devastating Hurricane Hattie in 1961 the decision on transfer of the capital far inland was made. In 1962 the government decided on the site of the new capital. In 1967 and 80 came to the southwest from Belize construction of the new administrative center, the city of Belmopan, which in 1970 became the residence of the national government and the capital of Belize began city. The state system of Belize is based on the principles of parliamentary democracy of the Westminster system. The monarchy, the head of state, the Queen of Great Britain presented by the Governor-General. Executive power is carried out by the government headed by the Prime Minister. The party leader who received the majority in parliamentary elections which take place time in 5 years becomes them. The legislature belongs to the two-chamber National Assembly. The upper house, the Senate, and 12 dicks appointed to 5-year term by the Governor-General according to the recommendation of the leader of ruling party, the leader of opposition, religious and public organizations. Lower, the House of Representatives. 31 deputies chosen by the population. The United Democratic Party, left-centrist, 25 seats in Parliament. The People's United Party, centrist, 6 places. Unrepresented in Parliament, National Alliance for the Rights of Belize, the National Party of Reforms, the People's National Party and others. Age and sex pyramid of the population of Belize for 2020. Population -324,500. A census of 2010. Annual gain -2.1%. Fertility -3.3 births only woman. Average life expectancy -68 years. Urban population -52%. In 2008. Contamination, a virus of an immunodeficiency. HIV -2.1%. Assessment of 2007. Ethno-racial structure. On a census of 2010. Métis. Spanish Indian origin. -150.9,000 49.7%. Creoles. The English African origin. -64.2,000 22.2%. The Maya Indians -30.1,000 9.9%. Garifuna. Afro-Indian origin. -14,000 4.6%. White. Generally Mennonite Germans. -14,000 4.6%. Natives of Asia. Indians, Chinese, Arabs. -10,000 3.3%. The mixed population -19,006. 2%. Others -1,200 0.4%. Religions. Catholics of 40.1%, Protestants of 31.5%. Pentecostals from the Assemblies of God of 8.4%, Seventh-day Adventist Church of 5.4%, Anglicans of 4.7%, Mennonites of 3.7%, Baptists of 3.6%, Methodologists of 2.9%, Nazarians of 2.8%. Other 10.5%, Atheists of 16.1%. On a census of 2010. According to 2010, Jehovah's Witnesses make 1.7% of the population. Official language of Belize is English. Most of the population well owns them, however only 4% of the population are considered by English the native language. Level of literacy of the population is 70%. Belize Creole language is the first language for 33% of Belizeans. From 75 to 80% of the population know this language. Spanish is widespread in Belize since 1840 when refugees Métis arrived in Belize from Mexico. It is the first language for 46% of Belizeans. It is well known by most of the population. Mayan languages are a family approximately for 9% of the population. Garifuna is the native language about 3% of the population. In 2001, UNESCO announced a Garifuna, a masterpiece of oral and non-material cultural heritage. At schools, teaching is conducted in English. Spanish is learned at elementary and high school. The bilingualism meets very often. The culture of Belize goes back roots to sources of Maya Indians whose descendants still live in the country. With priceless historical heritage, temples and palaces of a great civilization. The largest centers of the Maya which remained up to now are in Xunantunich, on border with Guatemala, Paltanha, Caracol, Cuyu, Lamine and other places. These ancient cultural centers aren't studied up to the end yet and represent huge value for historians and archaeologists. Step pyramids, huge masks and reliefs on walls of temples Lamana, mysterious and picturesque Lubantan. In the town Caquilpac it is possible to see a lot of well-known false arches of the Maya, making one of riddles and characteristic features of architecture of the Maya. Altanha, one largest archaeological centers of the country, it is known for the burials in which graceful jewelry from a jasper and seashells was found. Also national parks and reserves of the country, among which only in the world there is a reserve of a jaguar are of interest. In the capital of Belize, the city of Belmopan, there is a University of Belize, interesting architectural buildings of banks, monuments, the art boxing exhibition and the city museum, and also a set of wonderful parks. Also the former capital of the country, Belize, is rich in sights. And the Museum of Belize, located in the building of the former colonial prison of the middle of the 18th century, it is possible to get acquainted with potter's art of the Maya. The Maritime Museum tells about navigation development, and the Coastal Zone Museum shows a unique exposition on ecology of reefs. In the city there is also a National Center of Handicrafts. In a northern part of the city there is St. John's Cathedral, the oldest Anglican church in Central America. For the city, the beacon monument of the Baron Bliss, well known for the good deeds on this earth, is of particular importance. Belize, the underdeveloped agrarian state specializing in the international services. The main article of currency income of Belize, tourism. He is followed by export of seafood, citrus, cane sugar, bananas, clothes. In 2006 oil fields are found, in 2007 her production and export began. The DD per capita in 2009 $8.3 thousand. The 119th place in the world. In services industry 72% working or engaged in the industry of 18%, in agriculture of 10%. The industry, production of clothes, food, construction, oil production. Agriculture, bananas, cocoa, citrus, sugar cane. Fishery, cultivation of shrimps. Logging. Belize, the international offshore zone. For 2017 the volume of foreign trade was export of $457.5 million, import of $845.9 million, negative balance of foreign trade of $143 million. Main export goods: sugar, bananas, fruit juice, tobacco, raw materials, shrimps, seafood, crude oil. Main buyers: Great Britain 33.9%, USA 22%, Jamaica 6%. 7%, Italy 6.4%, Barbados 5.9%, Ireland 5.5%, Netherlands 4.3%. Main import goods: oil products, cigarettes and cigars, cars and equipment, including vehicles, chemicals, consumer goods. Chief suppliers: USA 35.6%, Mexico 11.2%, China 11.2%, Guatemala 6.9%. External debt minus $1.315 billion in 2017. The military budget of $19 million as of 2005. Regular armed forces make 1.05 thousand a man, completing on a voluntary basis. Reserve the 700 man. Mobilization resources of 68.5 thousand people, including 40.6 thousand suitable for military service. Ground forces make 1.05 thousand people, 3 PG, support group, 3 companies of A reserve. Arms: 6 mortars of caliber of 81, 8 recoilless tools, Carl Gustaf. The Air Force is presented by the Aviation Wing, which is a part of Ground Forces. Planes: 2 lines of patrolmen of the B-2B plane, 1 Cessna 182, 1 training aircraft transport T-67-200 plane. Naval Forces of Defense is a part of Ground Forces. 50 people, 3 P, 9 boats, 3 DIA. Also far. Write comments. Read comments. Interesting people will tell interesting stories. All of good mood and good luck.